Hi, God. Thanks for the shine. Take two. Okay, so today is day 5, Thursday, day of thunder, right? So we had to do a second take on this bit because when we were reading our script, we found out that we forgot a word, man. Hold on, let me white balance this real quick. All right, so now we're going to get back to the flow and then we're going to get back to the show because we're just going to be reading this notice, right? We're going to read you the notice and then we're going to show you what's up, right? Because we're going to put together, the story, right? Because there's a story that's going on right now, is that the world is not what you think it is, man. It's really not what you think it is. And we're going to show you why. We're going to show you what's up, right? Check this out. Here, look at this. You see that? Boom. That says notice, okay? All right, so we got this notice that we're continuing on with, right? This is the notice of the dissolution of government. 2 treatises, right, of government. John Locke, remember that, John Locke, okay? Here we go, right? Remember this, reject false doctrines. Maxim, 1 Timothy 6:3. If any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, thank you, right, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness. Remember that, all right? Maxim, 1 Timothy 6:4. He is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railing, evil surmises. All right, remember that, okay? Maxim, 1 Timothy 6:5. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself, right? So that's coming from the law. That's coming from the Bible, right? That's coming from the King James Version of the Holy Bible, all right? Let's keep it going. Here goes California Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, right? Here goes the text, right? All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their protection, security, and benefit, and they have the right to alter or reform it when the public good may require. Remember that, okay? So first, the Bible's telling us to withdraw ourselves, right? If people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing according to the rules of God, right? Then Constitution is saying, the people, they have the right to alter or reform it, meaning the Constitution, when the public good may require, right? Now we're going to show you how and why, right? This is of the dissolution of government, subsection 212, John Locke, remember that. Besides this overturning from without, governments are dissolved from within. Remember that, okay? He's going to show you how how the governments are dissolved from within. First, when the legislative is altered, civil society being a state of peace amongst those who are of it, from whom the state of war is excluded by the umperage which they have provided in their legislative for the ending of all differences that may arise among any of them, it is in their legislative that the members of a commonwealth are united, remember that, and combined together into one coherent living body. Okay, remember that. One body is coming through the legislative body. Remember that, right? This is the soul that gives form, life, breath, right? And unity to the commonwealth. Remember that, right? I like that. I want to read that one again. This is the soul that gives form, life, and unity to the commonwealth. From hence, the several members have their mutual influence, sympathy, and connection. And therefore, when the legislative is broken, right? Is ours broken? I think so. Or dissolved, dissolution and death follows, right? Remember that. And therefore, let's read that again. Rewind. And therefore, when the legislative is broken or dissolved, dissolution and death follows, right? It dies, right? So once the legislative is broken, it dies. Remember that, right? For the essence and the union of the society consisting in having one will, the legislative, when once established by the majority, has the declaring and, as it were, keeping of that will. That's the job, man. Remember that. The Constitution, of the legislative is the first and fundamental act of society. Repeat, the Constitution of the legislative is the first and fundamental act of society. Remember that, okay? Whereby provisions is made for the continuation of their union under the direction of persons and bonds of law, made by persons authorized thereunto, by the consent and appointment of the people, right, without which no one man or number of men amongst them can have authority of making laws that shall be binding to the rest. Remember that, okay? When any one or more shall take upon them to make laws, whom the people have not appointed so to do, they make laws without authority. All right, remember that, right? So they're making laws without authority. If they have been messing with any of the Declaration of Rights within any of the constitutions that we the people have created for them, which means that our legislatives have dissolved. They're dead. They don't exist. You need to remember this, man, because everybody's the walking dead right now, right? Remember that, okay? Where was I? Right. Rewind. Without authority, which the people are not therefore bound to obey, by which they come again to be out of subjection. Oh, let's rewind that. When any one or more shall take upon them to make laws, whom the people have not appointed so to do, they make laws without authority, which the people are not therefore bound to obey, by which means they come again to be out of subjection, and may constitute to themselves a new legislative, as they think best, being in full liberty to resist the force of those who, without authority, would impose anything upon them. Every one is at the disposure of his own will, when those who had, by the delegation of the society, the declaring of the public will, are excluded from it, and others usurp the place who have no such authority or delegation. All right, that's coming from chapter XIX, 19, section 212. Question: are the people the creators and masters of constitutions? Yes or no? Answer us, right? So we're always going to be asking our public servants this question, right? Because we just showed you what's up, because it says it right here. So another example of our legislative bodies being dissolved is that if you don't feel happy, if you don't feel safe, if you feel like they're taking your property, right, then they have just went outside of their authority. They have stepped beyond their bounds, man, which means dissolution, which means they're no go, no show, no law, no nothing. The people are not bound to obey them, right? Which means that the people need education, right? Because there's so much walking outside of the bounds of what the legislative bodies think that they have authority over. For example, like in California, there's this little department. It's an agency that the government has created called the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? The Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So then this department, it requires the people to get their cars, their transportation bits registered, right? So the people who lack knowledge, they go and then they register their vehicles, they register their property, to the government, because they think, or the government thinks that all people who are driving are in commerce. They think they're in commercial activities, which they're not, because they're free to move wherever they wish to go, right? So the people have been tricked for so long because the government has went outside of their bounds. The legislatures have went outside of their bounds by making fake agencies who say that, oh yeah, it's the law. You got to give us money if you want to drive, and you got to pay us every year if you want to put that vehicle on the road. If not, we're going to use the authority of the police to pull you over and then give you a ticket and then take you to the court, which is the people's court, right? And then the judge is going to sit back there, and then the judge is going to fine you and say, yeah, you better pay that money because you've been driving, with blah, 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 right? So that is a simple example of how the legislatures have dissolved the government of California, because they have done things outside of their authority, which means that we, the people, are not bound, right? We have a duty and an obligation to not follow those laws because the people are on top, and then the government entities that we created, they are our servants, right? They are not our leaders. They are our servants. You got to remember that, man. Remember that, right? That's just one example. I mean, there's so many examples out there. I mean, there's just so many. Okay, another example is that I'm always going to go back to the arms, man. You got to get your arms on, right? So in California, our political servants have made it so difficult for the people to get their arms that they have to do all of these ridiculous things, right? And then the people have to go to the stores, right? And then when they try to go to the stores and then they try to get their arms, right, because they're trying to protect their property, right? Your body's your property. You got a right to protect it, right? Then the stores are making it difficult for the people to get their arms, right? Because the stores are saying, well, we're following the government, we're following the laws, right? And then the people who lack knowledge don't know how to say, no, that is no law, right? The people are on top. You better just provide me with my goods and services, man, right? So now, that's another example of our government being dissolved in California. I mean, it's been dissolved. Our governments have not been in existence probably for a very long time. So then that's why you got people saying, oh, you got the de jure and the de facto, right? It's like, nah, dude. I mean, you just got to know who to unite with. You got to know who to follow with. And then once you follow, you go ahead and you be part of that society, because now you're going to have to go ahead and come together and fix what the government broke, man. Because the Constitution is perfect. I mean, it's so clean. I mean, it's a trust indenture. It's a trust contract, right? So now if none of our public servants understood that, because they don't understand what the trust is, because they don't read, right? And then the lawyers who keep teaching them, the brightest and the best, they kept teaching them that they can do these things to the people, right? To the ones who are their masters, right? Who are their creators, right? The people created lawyers, right? The people created all of the things that the people are in fear of right now, man. I mean, it's so fun, right? So we're just going on this bit because like our brain, just popped open this morning because we were just like thinking, right? So here, check this out, right? I'm gonna show you something, right? So here, look at this. Here goes another example. You see that? Boom, there goes Carrie Lake, for governor, right? So the election games were still going on, right? How are we doing on time? We're okay on time, right? So the election games were going on, right? And then the people found out, that it's like, yo, they were not being managed properly. We call that maladministration, right? One man, one woman, one vote, done, right? You got to be part of the American society. Done, right? How do they say that? You got to be a U.S. citizen, right? And then you got to show little pictures and stuff like that, that says, yeah, I'm a citizen, right? You got to show your paperwork, man, right? So here's another example of how the government in California is dissolved, right? They dissolved themselves the moment that they did this, right? So the moment that, they created a different path of how to, vote for our political servants, right? They dissolved the government right then and there because they're not following the Constitution, man. I mean, so it's so simple. I mean, you could just go down and all the people can make a checklist and then they can say, yep, you broke it there, dissolved. You broke it there, dissolved. You're taking my money from my property, dissolved, right? You're doing all of these things. By default, you dissolve the government, man. I mean, it's just so easy now, right? So when we get this thing like the Carrie Lake, who's showing, like, look, here's another testimony of what a man had to go and he did. And then this man saying, yeah, I went in and then I tried to vote. I tried to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to go in and I'm trying to choose my servant, right? So they didn't let me choose my servant, right? The people that were supposed to be managing my servants didn't let me choose my servants, right? Get that in your head, people, right? So when your servants are allowing you to do what you have the authority to do as the people, because you're on top of all governments, right? We're the creators, man. Scary simple, right? So if they interfere with all of that, they've dissolved the trust. They broke the trust. I mean, you don't have to obey anything anymore, right? You just have to sit up there and be like, gotcha, We'll come back. We'll circle back. We'll check up on you because we're going to get you for maladministration. We're going to get you for deprivation of rights under the color of law because we got all the proof that we need, man. I mean, now with the internet, it's everywhere, right? So now this is why, my man David Jose is trying to get us all to unite, right? Because that's why we put that link in the last bit that we did the other day, right? Where it's like, yo, you can go to this website, I forgot the name of it, right? Whatever. It's going to be posted in the description in this link right here, where you can go to it, you can click on the link, right? And then you can get yourself an affidavit, but you got to remember, it's coming through a service that he pays for, right? And then it's going to send you an email back to you, and then it's going to say subscribe, right? Once you hit subscribe, then it's going to send you an affidavit, a real affidavit, right? One that you have to swear under penalty of perjury that this is what happened during the election games, man, right? You know, so you put that down and you go find a notary, right? And then you make sure that you put everything that, you know, happened to you down on the affidavit, right? And then you go ahead and then you sign it in front of the notary public, right? And then boom, you got your testimony, man. You're cool. You're going to be free, right? You know, this is how you're moving yourself outside of the jurisdiction of the public servants right now, man, because the public servants are acting up, right? I mean, we got them in so many grounds of acting up. Another example of that is like we found out that the public servants were using a scheme, right? They were using a scheme where, you know, they were taking the people's money, you know, and then they were sending the people's money overseas, right? You know, and then they sent it overseas to go help out in what they call, you know, like a war or something like that. They called it military aid, right? You know, so they sent over billions of dollars of the people's money to another overseas entity, a foreign entity, right? And then what that foreign entity did was that they sent it to another entity, you know, down in some place, you know, like that dealt with cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, man. This is financial stuff, right? You know, so they sent it to another entity, you know, that dealt with cryptocurrencies, right? You know, and then this is like basically how they were washing the money. So much fun. It's like a movie, right? You know, so they sent the money, you know, that they got from the public servants in America, you know, who sent the money to a foreign entity, and then that foreign entity then sent that money to another entity that dealt with cryptocurrencies, right? And then the cryptocurrencies then they washed those funds, right, in crypto, right? And then they sent it back to the public servants. It is beautiful, man. I mean, I'm not even mad at them. I'm not even mad at them, right? Because I'm like, yo, if you're slick enough to do a scheme like that and then to keep that scheme going on and on and on for a long time, and then keeping the people uneducated because you've altered the school system so that people don't know that they're boss, man. I mean, you get it. You got that. You won, right? But we're done, right? We're done because now we're boss again, man. We know what's up. And then we're just going to keep showing the people what's up because we're going to try to get them to unite with us, and we're going to try to get them to follow us. And then once they follow us, you know, they're going to be free. You know, they're going to be free because the governments are all dissolved, man. By default, they've all dissolved, right? Now you have to understand this. Now you have to move yourself outside the jurisdiction, and then you have to hang out with the people who have the knowledge that can show you the knowledge, and then you'll protect your body, and then we can now correct all of our governments, right? We can make it beautiful again, man, which we will, by God, with love. Done. All right. You know, that's it, man. You know, so I just wanted to put this bit down. So, you know, now we have subsection, what was it? I forgot. Yeah, subsection 212, right? Subsection 212 of the Dissolution of Government now, right? Now we know that all of our governments have been dissolved because the legislative bodies have not been following the constitutions, right? So if you don't follow the state's constitutions, you are dissolved, right? You are dissolved. And if the people go and they look at their Declaration of Rights in their state constitutions, and then they say, and they just go down that checklist and they say, yep, you didn't do that. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. I don't feel that. Let me go find some people that I can unite with for the common good, right? And then let's go back and instruct our public servants, man. That's how much fun it is now, man. All right, so, you know, that's it. I'm going to put this together. I'm going to upload it. I'm going to see how it flows. And then I'm going to just watch the drama that's going on today, man. I mean, there's so much drama because you got all the so-called public servants chattering, you know, about the election games, which we all know now is not real. It's none of it's real, right? Because they've dissolved themselves a long time ago, man. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the future. Remember, nobody's having more fun than us. Bye.